Through the first 3 games of the season, it was smooth sailing for Syracuse. It really can't get much better than a trio of blowout wins by an average of 36 points. A big shift from last year when SCU won its first 3 by just 5 a game. Tonight, Cuse hoped to use this newfound juice to propel it to another big win as Monmouth took the trip up from the shore. The Hawks brought that Jersey drama with them and had a chance to tie on their final possession, but the Orange just barely stayed afloat. The Cardiac Cuse made its first true appearance of the season with a 78-73 win over Monmouth. We'll tell you everything you need to know from the Orange's closest game of the year. It's Orange Press Pass, and it starts right now. Hey there, everyone, and welcome into a late-night edition of Orange Press Pass. I'm Adam Gotkin alongside Timmy, Weiss, and Ryan Croke. Syracuse is 4-0 for the first time in 8 years, but Timmy, it was definitely a little bit shaky today.
Yeah, I guess you could say that, Adam. This was maybe a 5-point game and maybe a win at the end of the day, but it doesn't mean that it was a good one. This is an embarrassing 5-point win over the 234th Ken Palm team in the nation against Monmouth. How do you blow a 14-point lead with under 10 minutes to go, and then you blow an 8-point lead with under 2 minutes to go? Monmouth has a 3-point opportunity in the final seconds of the game and doesn't get it to go. That was scary, Ryan.
Yeah, it wasn't great. The way I see it, this is a needed reality check for this team. You mentioned it, Adam, off the top. How this team started last season, it wasn't pretty. But this season, it's been much better. Despite this sloppy performance tonight, not winning by as much as you might have wanted them to, there's still a lot to like. Obviously, a bump in the road here in terms of quality of win, but there's still a lot to like about this team. This was a needed reality check for this team. They were riding a little high after those first 3 wins. They looked great. Didn't look as great tonight, but there's still a lot to like.
So definitely a lot of good, a lot of bad tonight in the Dome. Let's send things down to Irving Ave to show you how things happened in game number 4 of the season for the Orange. A bit of a small crowd as expected for a 9 p.m. tip, but a heck of a start for this guy, Nate Kings. He was 2 for 12 in the first 3 games of this season, knocks down a 3-point jumper early. It was tough going for Monmouth on offense through a lot of this game because Syracuse's defense has been incredible through the start of the season. And how about Sadiq White in transition with the slam? But then Monmouth started to really get things going on offense. A 3-pointer from Jack Collins gave the Hawks a 4-point lead halfway through the first half. Syracuse was fighting back. J.J. Starling with his first points of the season on that layup. And then Kyan Anthony getting involved on offense as he goes back to the bench with Starling's insertion into the starting lineup. This game got a little bit chippy towards the end of the first half. Adrian Autry assessed a technical foul. That actually made a big impact because the Orange were on a 9-0 run, had all the momentum, and then those technical free throws got Monmouth back into this game. A 3-pointer from Andrew Ball right before the half, and it's a 3-point game going into the break. Syracuse needed some juice out of halftime. They had it last week against Drexel, not this week against Monmouth, though. Justin Ray knocks down a 3, and how about another one just a minute later? The sophomore was incredible, a career-high 25 points, but then Syracuse started to step on the gas. There's a 3 from Kyan Anthony. Sadiq White with another dunk, the freshman showing up in this game. Although White got into foul trouble, he played just 11 minutes. Justin Ray, mentioned his name a moment ago, another 3-pointer for him. He had 3 in the second half. This game was wild towards the end. Orange up by 14, but they let it slip all the way to a 2-point lead. That bucket by Jack Collins made it a 6-point game with 90 seconds to go. This 3 from Collins makes it a 2-point game with 30 seconds to go. Now a free throw for Bryce Zephyr up by 3. He misses it, so a chance to tie the game on the final possession for the Hawks. Jason Rivera-Torres misses the 3. He was 0 for 5 from deep in this game, and his squad falls by 5. But oh boy, a close one to say the least, guys. Syracuse barely holds on a 5-point victory for its 4th win of the year.
Pretty incredible that they're barely holding on in this game when they had that big of the lead. It was good to see J.J. Starling back out there for the Orange, though. He may have had some of his struggles early on, but he started to settle in and had a lot better signs as the game went on.
Yeah, that free throw form, though, what are we doing there? I mean, just not pretty and not what you want to see in his return.
And the free throws were a big struggle for the team throughout the game.
They were, and for JJ specifically, he airballed 2 free throws. And he's been an interesting guy to follow ever since he came to Syracuse. Had a lot of praise coming over from Notre Dame, dealt with injuries last year, and now he's dealing with injuries again. But he did make his return, and we're excited to bring on Vic Maslia now, joining us live from the JMA Wireless Dome, who had a better view than us and got to talk to JJ and Coach Autry after the game. So, Vic, JJ makes his return to the lineup today. What did you see from him physically? Did he look like his old self, or did he kind of look like his hamstring was bothering him?
Yeah, Adam, he definitely didn't look like his normal self. You could see that the chemistry just wasn't there between JJ and the other starters on the court. JJ was actually the first to get subbed out for Kai and Anthony to come in about 4 minutes into that first half. But going into the second half, JJ did start to become more like his old normal self, and that physicality really showed through. You see him going into the paint, being strong with that right and the left hand, finishing, and it was a really good sign to see. I know that it wasn't the best game from J.J. Starling, but I think the improvement from the first half to the second half is definitely a good sign to see from Coach Autry.
Hey, Vic, the lead really slipped away for the Orange throughout the second half, but especially in those closing minutes. What did you see from the Orange that made it so tight in the closing minutes?
Yeah, those last 3 minutes were quite a doozy for the Orange. They were up by 11 points with just over 2.5 minutes to play, and it seemed like everything just started to unravel. And, of course, Monmouth had been pests the whole entire game, and that was not a surprise that they would make it at least close to Syracuse. But the missed jumpers, the missed free throws, the missed layups, and everything in between for the Orange really hurt them. And on the other end, Monmouth was doing just the opposite. They were hitting their free throws. They were hitting their layups, their jumpers, their three-pointers. They had that three-pointer with less than a minute left to play, which was huge for them. And they made a couple free throws down the line to force it within a one-possession game. Bryce Zephyr's missed free throws did not help the Orange at all and actually gave Monmouth a chance with 10 seconds left to try to come back and tie the game. So just sloppy altogether in those last 3 minutes. Monmouth doing everything right, the Orange doing everything wrong.
Hey, Vic, thanks for joining us. Speaking of sloppy, and you touched on free throws, there were more struggles there for the Orange tonight. Did Autry say anything about that post-game?
Yeah, Autry did speak on it, and he did not seem that concerned. I know it might seem crazy to say, but he wasn't that concerned about the free throws, and I think it's because he's confident in his guys. And he even said that he's confident in his guys in the games going forward, that they're going to be able to hit those free throws. And he was more concerned about the inconsistency just as a whole for the team, but specifically defensive inconsistencies. He talked about the dips, the highs and the lows. The Orange would get on a roll, and then they would kind of regress a little bit and let Monmouth back into the game, which was not good for the Orange. But for the free throws, I think that he's really confident in his team going forward. Of course, 19 for 33 is not good on the stat sheet, but when you take the stat sheet away a little bit, I think that Coach Autry is really looking forward to what his guys can do in terms of improving in free throws, and I think that these practices before the Players' Era tournament will really determine how this team can bounce back.
Vic, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. All right, guys, I'll tell you what, I'm a bit surprised with that reaction about the free throws. 56% today. They were below 65% entering this game. But, hey, maybe it'll get fixed soon. Well, we'll talk a little bit more about the free throw struggles and a lot of the other struggles that Syracuse had in this game. A very close win over a not-so-good Monmouth team. We'll continue to break it down when we return on Orange Press Pass. Welcome back into Orange Press Pass. Adam Gotkin, Timmy Weiss, and Ryan Croke here, breaking down Syracuse's 78-73 win over Monmouth. We're so happy that all of you are spending your early morning, late night, whatever you call it. It's 12:40. So if you are staying up, we really appreciate it. And we imagine you're a very big Syracuse super fan because, I mean, it's 12:40 and this is Syracuse Monmouth. So I'd imagine you're quite interested in some of the other scores around the hill. A very busy week right now, especially for some of these fall sports guys that are now in postseason play. Syracuse field hockey with that big game against Princeton. That was the NCAA quarterfinals and truly a heartbreaker for Cuse.
Definitely a tough one, a great season for that squad. They won the first round of the NCAA tournament over Liberty in a shootout, a super exciting season all year long. But you got to look at the women's basketball team. Holding Wagner to 29 points, I mean, that's almost not even a real basketball score at that point.
I mean, that's the type of defense we saw from the men's team these first 3 games. Where was that tonight? I mean, let's get them practicing with FLJ and that crew. Hold Wagner to 29 points in 40 minutes. That's what I like to see.
The other big game on campus this Thursday night on the top right of your screen, Syracuse hosting Hofstra in round 1 of the NCAA men's soccer tournament at 6 p.m. So that's what's going on around the hill. What about around the nation in college basketball? A big early season Tuesday night, the Champions Classic at MSG, and Michigan State with a big win over Kentucky. How about those Spartans, man? That's already their second big win of the season. It feels like Tom Izzo's really got a solid squad this season, Ryan.
I like them a lot. I think that people were sleeping on them heavy coming into the year. This is a team that won the Big Ten last season, and I still really like what Tom Izzo's got going on down there. Cam Ward is a stud, and Cohen Carr, he's taking the lead.
Just get Tom Izzo in March, right? That's what they say. If he's in March, he can do anything. I got to look at that Kansas-Duke game as well. 2 teams that Syracuse will be playing this year. They got the matchup against Kansas in just a week's time in Vegas. I mean, they're without their best player, Darren Peterson, right now. Lose to Duke, but that's a really good Duke team. That's still going to be a huge challenge for the Orange.
It definitely will be. And how about that bottom left score? Arkansas almost loses to Winthrop. John Calipari, not a great start to your season, but let's get back to this Syracuse team. It was an interesting game today, just a 5-point win over Monmouth, but there was one good thing that came out of it, and that was the return of J.J. Starling. He is this team's leader, both in the locker room and supposed to be on the floor as well. A 20-point scorer, a guy who's a senior, who's been around the ACC for a long time, but Timmy, he didn't seem like J.J. Starling the star that he usually is today, did he?
Definitely at the beginning of the game today, he was having some struggles, but he started to get better throughout the game. I started to see more of the J.J. with hitting some 3-pointers and getting into the lane and causing some problems, but only ends with 11 points. It wasn't his greatest day, and the offense wasn't moving through J.J. Starling. And that's normally the Syracuse offense that Adrian Autry talks about, that it's going to move through J.J. Starling. He's going to be the leader. And that really wasn't the case today, Ryan.
No, and he heated up in the second half. He did have 9 of his 11 points, but he did not look comfortable in that first half. You take a look at the numbers here without J.J. and with J.J., and it looks like there's some dips, particularly in field goal percentage and average points per game, so that's something to keep an eye on. I think at times they do flow better with him off the floor than they do with him on the floor. They looked solid in those first 3 games with him out. But I think that when it comes down to it, especially as the competition gets tougher, you're going to need a guy who can get you a bucket when shots aren't falling, and Starling is that guy for this team. So I think that in the long run, while these numbers might not be most encouraging with him on the floor, I think he's got to stay in the starting lineup 100%.
I mean, the other thing that he brings to your team is that veteran leadership that is going to matter more when you're playing your Houstons and Kansases of the world compared to some of these bottom feeders where a freshman can go out and dominate because they're just as talented. I mean, in those bigger games, that's where you need JJ. That's why you bring him back, right?
Yeah, and the one thing I have to talk about is he missed some big free throws at the end of the game. That is not what a leader does. No. A leader makes those shots, and J.J. Starling has to figure that out quickly before worse things happen than losing to Monmouth or something like that.
He definitely does. Well, another thing in this game, the defense for Syracuse that was just flat out incredible through the first 3 games. They didn't give up 50 points in any of those 3. Today, they give up over 70. Ryan, it just didn't seem like they were the same team out there.
No, and it's just now back-to-back games where that Drexel took advantage of it a little bit in that first half on Monday, and now today, it's just not the same that we saw from those first 3 games. Monmouth got a lot of open threes. How about Justin Ray? I mean, we mentioned him earlier. Just an absolute killer day from beyond the arc for him. 25 points, that's a career high. He came into this game shooting over 55% from three. He went 4 of 7 from deep tonight, and he was not the only one killing them from deep.
There was a lot of players killing them from deep. This is the first time we've seen Syracuse actually get challenged from beyond three-point land. Before today, they had a 16% field goal percentage that they were holding opponents from downtown from, and today it was 37.5%. There were guys getting open looks today. That was the concern, is that even though Syracuse was bringing good effort and bringing good energy, guys were getting open. And even when they brought that energy, it sometimes led to more open looks and more opportunities for these teams and for Monmouth today. And it just is very concerning when you're going into games against Houston and Kansas of it could get even worse.
I think the other thing is that Syracuse wasn't turning over Monmouth a ton in this game. Just 12 turnovers for the Hawks. I mean, with how aggressive Syracuse plays, Ryan, you want to see more than 12, right?
Absolutely. And this is something that you see Adrian Autry doing all game. He's yelling at the guards, particularly on the perimeter, to get out, get tight, and do not give these guys any room. And that's caused some turnovers through 3 games. Tonight, it was a little bit less in that department.
Well, another spot where Syracuse didn't dominate maybe the way that it was expecting. On the glass, they out-rebound Monmouth by just 1 today. It was a bit of an issue against Drexel, especially giving up offensive rebounds, Timmy. It's not great right now.
It could get even worse in the next couple games. That's the main concern for me, is that it's against this Drexel team, or it's against this Monmouth team. How much worse is it gonna get when you play against Houston, who has so much physicality to their team, and when you only have a couple players who are 6'9" or up? That's going to make a big challenge for all of these guys to do a good job on the boards. And it's not even that they're not putting enough effort in these rebounds. I think it's just the strategy. They're not boxing out properly. They're letting guys slip into the lane. And it's just giving teams second opportunities that don't need to happen.
Yeah, and it's difficult when you don't have a 7-footer who can play consistent minutes. William Kyle, only 6'9", playing in the starting lineup. He's playing most of those minutes down low. So it is difficult when you're a little bit undersized compared to some of those teams that you're matching up with, but it's going to get even tougher, like you mentioned, against teams like Houston and Kansas in the ACC when we get to that time of the year.
So definitely not a perfect game today for the Orange, but they do pick up the victory. And a big reason for that, the newcomer out of Oregon State, Nate Kings. He is our Orange Press Pass player of the game. Coming into today, Kings had a season high of just 7 points. As a sharpshooter, he was just 2 for 12 from beyond the arc. Today, he more than doubled his season high with 15 points. He made 3 threes. He had 4 rebounds, 2 assists, and was able to do it all offensively, sparking this team with some drives, not just his 3-point shooting. Also, he got one of the toughest defensive matchups with Jason Rivera-Torres having to be the guy that he guards, and he was pretty incredible stopping that 6'9" wing. All right, well, we're coming up on another break here on Orange Press Pass. When we return, we're talking Las Vegas, Syracuse trip to the Players Era Invitational. You're going to want to hear all about it.
Every time I hear the alarm bell go off in school, I think it's an air raid.
A lot of houses in our neighborhood have been destroyed. I like to close my ears and sing songs whenever the bombs come close.
I'm worried our new neighbors won't like us.
But I know it's all gonna be worth it. I just want my family to be safe. But these are not my words.
These are not my words.
These are not my words.
Fancy pants peanut butter? A big screen television? You haven't even bought a sofa yet. A motorcycle? When your father finds out, he's gonna flip his shoes with 2 buckles? What do you even need 2 buckles for? Mr. Big Shot, buying whiskey shots for everybody in the bar. From the looks of it, I'd say nobody even remembers. Feed the pig.
Welcome back into Orange Press Pass. I'm Adam Gotkin alongside Timmy Weiss and Ryan Croke after Syracuse's 5-point win over Monmouth in Game 4 of the season. And We have reached the end of the first chapter of the year with the Players Era Invitational coming up next. It's a fun time, so we'll break down the first 4 games and preview the future. It is Take Your Pick. All right, it's Take Your Pick. We want to hear your guys' thoughts on how these first 4 games have gone so far for the Orange. The first 3, I think everyone would say it was incredible. Today, though, a little bit shaky. So my question for you, Timmy, where are you right now compared to where you were at the start of the season? Are you happy about right where you expected? What are you thinking?
And it's funny that you mentioned those first 3 games, because if you were just looking at those first 3 games, I'd be super pleased. I'd be ecstatic with how the season was going. However, the game against Monmouth just happened, and my expectations before the year were that Syracuse is just a little bit better than last year. They have a lot more talent, but the strategy, the team, getting over the humps, it's a similar story. You can't just play against a team like Monmouth and give up a lead like that, a 14-point lead, let it come close, and then end up almost losing. I mean, this is unacceptable stuff, and it shows me that the Orange, their expectations of them before the year are about the same.
I mean, they're literally not the same team. I mean, last year they didn't hold a single team below 50 points, and through 3 games they held 2 teams below 50 points and 1 team to exactly 50. So
well,
there's a lot to like on that end.
I don't think they're the same team, Ryan. I think they're
You feel the same?
I feel the same at the beginning of the season.
You should feel a lot better about the beginning of this season than last. 5, as you mentioned, Adam, average of 5-point margin of victory last year through those first 3 games. Double overtime at home against Youngstown State, and look at the scores on your screen right there. Blowout, blowout, blowout. They have 1 close game tonight. Not what you want to see by any means, but compared to last season, it's night and day. Night and day.
They're a much better team than last year, Ryan. They are. They have much better players.
So why do you feel the same?
I feel the same at the beginning of this year of my expectations than I did before, than I did now.
I'm with you here, Timmy. I think that this game tonight just kind of gives you some of those flashbacks of the first few years of Coach Autry, where it was just, it felt like that there were coaching issues that could have easily been fixed. All right, Ryan. Up next for Syracuse, it is a trip out to Vegas for the Players Era Invitational. A lot of the top teams in the country will be there. How do you think the Orange are going to fare? Do you think they can float, or will they sink back down to the bottom of college basketball?
Well, I think it's tough when you're facing 2 teams who are some of the best in the country in Houston and Kansas, but I think they can win one of those games. Everything has to go right. Kansas in particular. Houston's off the board. It's not going to happen.
Yeah, number 2 in the
Kansas,
country.
without Darren Peterson, if everything breaks Syracuse's way, it's on the board that they can win that game. On the board, it's tough to win that game, though.
I can see where you're coming from, and with the Syracuse talent that they have on their team, I could see a world maybe where they pull off an upset against Kansas, but I don't know. I think Syracuse has no chance against these 2 teams, not just Houston, but also against Kansas, because they had just played against 4 teams outside of 200 of KenPom. They're going to play against 200 spots higher against these 2 teams. This is another world of college basketball. I don't think Syracuse can just go in and compete against these teams.
And both Houston and Kansas are battle-tested. Houston's played Auburn. Kansas has played Duke, so it's going to be tough for Syracuse. We'll talk a little bit more about the upcoming schedule for the Orange when we return. Also, these guys over here will sound off on their takes from tonight. Orange Press Pass wraps up in just a moment.
Look at you. You're at the top of your game. You're unstoppable. Nothing can throw you off track. Wait, is that your car? Uh-oh. Yeah, I saw that coming. That will throw you off track. You're looking at around 10 grand in fines, legal fees, and increased insurance rates. Let's try this again. Smart move. Because buzz driving is drunk driving.
Welcome back into Orange Press Pass. I'm Adam Gotkin alongside Timmy, Weiss, and Ryan Croke. We're continuing to break down Syracuse's 78-73 win over Monmouth. And before we do that, before we give you our final thoughts, let's take a look at the upcoming schedule for Cuse. And oh boy, it gets tough. Number 2, Houston on Monday. Number 24, Kansas on Tuesday. There's going to be another game in there on either Wednesday or Thursday. And then after Vegas, while you return home to take on number 20, Tennessee. Those are all going to be really difficult, guys.
Yeah, that's a little rough to look at right there. You go from playing all these teams that are not good at all, and now you're playing the best teams in the country. This is just going to be a huge test for Syracuse.
Yeah, it's going to get real fast. Not an encouraging result tonight for these next 3 games in particular, but anything can happen in Vegas.
Anything can happen in Vegas, and who knows? Maybe all the chips fall Syracuse's way. Alrighty, well, it is time to sound off.
Syracuse is going to have a pit in its stomach going into number 2 Houston, and even the whole tournament in Vegas, because this team's confidence tonight got shot against a Monmouth team outside of the 230 mark in KenPom, and you almost lose to that team right there. Now you're going in to a team that has one of the best defenses in the country, possesses some of the best players in the country, and you're expected to compete against them? Gulp. That is brutally hard. This Syracuse team is going to be feeling not great going into that game.
There is undeniable hype around this year's Syracuse team, and a big part of that is Sadiq White. But through 4 games, the 4-star recruit hasn't lived up to expectations. I don't doubt his talent, but his maturity, that's a different story. Tonight, he became the first SU player to foul out of a game this year, and he did so in just 11 minutes. That's not something you want out of a guy coming off the bench. When he gets the ball, it looks like the only thing on his mind is scoring. It's not a bad philosophy, but if Syracuse is to live up to the hype, it needs White to think about the team, not his stat line. White's fellow freshman, Kyan Anthony, has done a great job so far of reading the defense and taking what's given to him. If White can adopt a similar offensive approach, this team could go further than anyone thinks is possible.
All right, well, up next, Syracuse takes on number 2 Houston Monday in Las Vegas. This is going to be a really tough one. Houston is always, I think, the best coach team in the country with Kelvin Sampson. The way that he gets his guys ready physically, mentally, man, I don't think that there's a worse matchup for Syracuse than this.
No. You know what's funny, too, is you look at the stats there, and Syracuse has more points per game. I mean, that's so deceiving right there, because
it's about who you play.
Exactly. It's about who you play, and Syracuse has had one of the easiest schedules in college basketball, where Houston has played against Auburn. They haven't had the toughest schedule outside of that, but it deceives you just a little bit.
They didn't look great in that Auburn game, but like you said, Adam, Kelvin Sampson, probably the best coach in the country.
Yeah, I mean, he cannot look great against a top 25 team like Auburn and still win. That just says how good of a coach Kelvin Sampson is. So it is going to be a real test for Syracuse today after they barely pass Monmouth, a 78-73 victory. We thank you all so much for tuning in to this edition of Orange Press Pass. If you want coverage from Vegas, make sure to follow me and Adam Avin on Twitter, @_Adam Avin and @Adam_Gotkin. All right, we'll see you next time on Orange Press Pass. Have a great rest of your night.